Hey guys, it's Mike from Rollin Into Retirement, the channel where a couple of retirees take on RV tips, campground reviews, food and wine, photography, and much more. Today, we're going to show you a simple way to use RV Trip Wizard and then take what you did in RV Trip Wizard and use it with the RV Life app. Stay tuned. So most of you know that we sold our home back in August in New Jersey, and we took our motorhome to find a spot here in Port St. Lucie, Florida, where we would be able to take advantage of a home base, and then whenever we wanted to, just jump in the motorhome and take it to any place in Florida or further. Well, we've decided to do that, and we're going to be going to a campground near St. Augustine, about 30 miles out of it, called Lakes Campground. And what we want to show you is how we use RV Trip Wizard, and then after we use RV Trip Wizard, we'll send it over to the RV Life app for GPS. Again, we're not going to go into in-depth of RV Trip Wizard. So this will just be simple from here in Port St. Lucie to the site and then home. Now also we want to thank you before we start for watching our videos. If you're already a subscriber, we thank you. If you like what you see, please don't hesitate to subscribe and hit that little alarm bell so you'll know when there's new videos. And once you have subscribed, you'll know about our next video, which will be a review of the Lakes Campground in St. Augustine, Florida. Now, most important, we'll have links to RV Trip Wizard as well as the campground in the description below. So as we said in previous videos, we sold our home in New Jersey and moved down to Florida. And we found a really nice house, a brand new home in the Port St. Lucie area. And now living in Florida, it gives us an opportunity to just pick up and take a trip whenever we want. So what we did was we booked a trip in St. Augustine, Florida. Now, we had been to St. Augustine 2 other times. On our first trip down in 2018, we stopped at the Bryn Mawr Ocean Resort, which is actually right on the beach in St. Augustine. That really was a really nice place to stay. This past year, we came down on our trip down and we stayed at the Ocean Grove RV Resort, and we have a little link to that. We'll have it up above here, that you can actually see a little bit of Ocean Grove RV Resort. But this time, we decided to try something a little different. We like the St. Augustine area. We like to walk around the town, etc. And we decided to stay at a place called 4 Lakes. So what we're going to do is plan this trip through RV Trip Wizard because it's simple. It's a simple thing to show you, and rather than have a multi-stop trip, this is just going to give you a little idea of how RV Trip Wizard works with just the simple things that we're going to do for this trip. And then after that, we'll use RV Life, the app, and show how you can open this trip up in it and use that as a GPS as well. Okay, so if you've never used RV Trip Wizard before, let me just go quickly and show you some things that you should do when you first set it up. Now you'll see here, we go to your default settings. And in here, you can set everything that will automatically set up when you make a new trip. Now, you can edit those settings for each particular trip, but here you'll see in the general area these different choices you have, and you can just kind of read that and see what you like for yourself. But here, you go into RV info. You can actually, there's a spot where you can actually look up the RV info or manually input your info. We had done this a while back. I don't even know that at the time we did this that they had that look up RV info, but we set in, we have a Georgetown 369, so we had the height, length, the weight, if we're carrying propane. We put in our fuel capacity and what we wanted for our fuel reserve. And then we go ahead and save that. In the routing and driving, we put in some areas where we like to avoid ferries, avoid tunnels. But again, as I said, you can change that. Here you can use the routing engine estimate for time. Or you can go in, and I actually changed this many times when I set it up. I'll set the average speed to be 50 miles an hour. I found that if we make stops, it will actually kick into a better time for us. But again, you'll get used to that and see what you like. These are the radiuses that you use. Here is either the Show Advanced, and you can see this new type of advanced radius that they have. I won't get into that now. This is the Classic radius, and here's if you don't want to show the radius. Now, what is the radius? So the radius is the distance in each ring that you would go. So the minimum distance in green is 100 miles, or whatever you decide you want to make it that you want to travel. Our max distance would generally be 300 miles at the most per day. So here's how you would go ahead on the map and look at what you want to do. Again, in this radius here would be 100, up to here is 200, and up to here would be 300. And how does that help you? Well, when you're searching for campgrounds, you can just look in the areas around the ring. Next area is expenses. Here's just areas where you can put in. I actually changed this many times each time I do a trip. So this was actually set up a while back when gas prices were up at that height. And then you can go into different memberships that you have and add those things. And we went ahead and put those things in here. Okay, so that's your settings. All right, so let's start a new trip. So we're going to start a new trip, and we're going to name it what we want. So we'll call it Test Trip to St. Augustine. Do we know what day we're leaving? Well, we do. We're leaving on February 17th. We've already made the reservations, so here we go, create. Now it wants us to know if you want to use your current location. Now we don't want to do that because I'm here at home now, so we're actually going to select the starting location, and we're going, our RV is at Cube Smart. In Stuart, Florida, and this is exactly where it is, Harbor Street in Stuart, Florida, and we're going to start there. Now again, here's the RV info. So let's go ahead. We can put any notes that we want. We can just say made reservations. I'm going to put this trip in as a tentative trip, so we don't get confused with what we have on our regular trips that we have set. But here is where we can go in and update and make any changes. Here I'm not going to make any changes with the RV itself. For routing and driving, I'm going to change that to use my average driving speed of 50. And then right now, we like the classic driving radius, so we'll keep that set. So we're going to save the trip settings for that. So they're building the trip. Now, I have filters already set for RV Trip Wizard. So let's take a quick peek and see what they are. You hit research, and you'll see here are areas within miles of where we are of different types of resorts. In our filters, we have them set up for 4 to 5 star resorts. We don't stay, with the motorhome, we try to find the different things: filters, big rig access, full hookup, 4 stars. That's for parks. Then in points of interest, you can literally tell it to show you every fuel station. You can have it show rest areas. Let's actually click rest areas as well to have it there. And you can actually see that it popped up on the screen. And then we like to use Pilot and Flying J if we're in the area that we know they have them. So we put that in, and we also sometimes put in Loves as well. Then you can actually look for low clearance hazards. Let's close it. All right, let's go back. Here you can go back at any time and just click Show Entire Trip. So the next thing we want to do is we want to search for a campground that we like. So let's shrink down the areas. Now, we know we're going to St. Augustine, which is in this area here. Now, if you wanted to, you can actually show all the parks, and you can go ahead and do your research, and you can actually see TripWizard when you highlight a park. That's showing, it'll actually give you whatever details you want. You can click ahead, go into park details. You can check here all the different things, reviews. And if you decide that you want to pick that park, you can add that to your trip after whatever the last stop is or wherever you want to go. We're actually not going to pick that. We're going to do it a little different way. We happen to know that we wanted to go to Four Lakes Campground, so we're going to search for that. Four Lakes Campground in Hastings, Florida. Okay, so it's come up. We went ahead, and you can actually go into the details. You can open up the website. Check it out if you like. It'll tell you everything you want to know about Four Lakes Campground. In here, features, reviews. We use the reviews a lot. You can go in and see any of the different things. And, you take reviews with a grain of salt, or you use them to the best of your advantage. There's tips and weather, which is a really pretty cool option. Now, we've decided that we want that. So we go ahead and we say, how many nights are we going to stay there? So in this particular case, we are staying for 4 nights. And we are going to lock our date of stay. So that way we know that we can't change that or delete it by accident. And we're going to go ahead and add it to the trip. Okay, so there you are with the directions. You can hit it any time, show entire trip. Now I also like to close off and hide the parks so you can see the map better. And it also will show us different gas stations that we might need to stop at as we go. Now we also want to make the trip to go home as well. Now what you could actually do is, being that this is the only stop we're going to make, you can click the round trip options, and you can either say mirror, or you can hit direct route back to start point. And there's your trip. Now here at this particular point, our trip to Four Lakes is about 204 miles. Here is a warning that I had put in the fuel reserve of 45 gallons. It's a little conservative, so in this particular case, we won't look for a station here. We'll go right back, because getting used to what I know about our motorhome, I know that on a 200-mile trip, and we're starting out with about 550 miles in our tank, I'll be able to get down to this particular pilot station and be comfortable about it. So what we'll do is we're going to take the Flying J, as I like the Flying J better, and more details, and we're going to add this to the trip, and we're going to add it after Four Lakes Campground. Add to your trip. So in this particular case, we'll stop there for gas, and we can go straight back to Stuart, Florida, at our spot. And if I want a completely full tank, I can get gas again one more time if I just figured I wanted to fill it up completely at this Flying J that we've been at. That will do as we go along. Okay, now let me show you some things that you can do now that this trip is set up. If you go into settings, again, these are the trip settings for your trip, which we've shown you that already. So now send to friend would be emailing it to a friend who's a subscriber as well. But here's a visitor view where actually you can take and copy the link. So anyone that you sent an email to or whatever it may be, you can go in and just put the link and they'll link it to a map of where you're going and what your tentative trip is. Okay, you can actually send this to a GPS. You click GPS. You can download the GPX file, and here you can then import that into either your Garmin or Rand McNally or into Google Maps. I've done Google Maps quite a few times just for fun to see what it's like. I've never bothered to go into the Garmin, as I can use, which will show you, RV Life has their own software, as well as many times I just go ahead. It's just as easy to type it into Garmin. But it does give you that option. Here you can email the itinerary. You can do that. And you've emailed that to ourselves, and we can check that out. And here is the itinerary. You can export this to your calendar if you download the file. Down here, in our case, we're downloading an ICS file, and you can just add that right to your calendar. I've done that already. Let's open it up. I'm going to put this into a different calendar. And there it is. You can export to Excel. You can print your itinerary. You can print a map, portrait or landscape. You can go ahead and delete stops, but you can also do that just by clicking the area you're in and delete it there as well. Now here's your turn by turn. So this will give you exactly what your directions are going to be and where you're headed. And you are able to print that if you like, with or without the maps. Now, one of the other things that you can actually do, and I've done this quite a few times, once I've set up a trip, sometimes I want to play with it, and you may not want to mess the trip up, or you may just want to do another trip, which we've done. In this case, for example, we've gone back to New Jersey quite a few times, but we don't always go the same way, but some of the stops are. So you could just go ahead and copy the trip and then just have a copy of that trip, and then you can go ahead and make any changes you want. Down here are things that RV Trip Wizard will give you. This is a featured tour, so if you click that, it will go ahead and show you different things of what it does. So let's end that tour now. It has a help button and an area where you can add and edit the park. Let's actually open up a previous trip that you can see with a little bit more data of things that you can do. Okay, so this is a trip, our most recent trip south in September. And up above, I'm going to have a link to our YouTube video on this trip. But here you can see the many different stops that we made, including gas stations, places that we stopped. Some gas stations we didn't add that we may have stopped on the way down. And you can actually go back and add them so you'll have a record of it. One of the things I didn't show you before is you can actually go in, and if you edit, you can actually see, you can go in and add the comments, your reservation information number, as well as the places you stayed, and some notes after you stay there. In this particular campground at Gettysburg, we made notes of what we paid, the site we were at, also whether about the Wi-Fi, and which cell service was better. Okay, let's move over to the RV Life app on our iPad and take the trip. Okay, so I'm going to assume you've already downloaded the RV Life app to either your iPad, iPhone, Android device. But when you open it up, you've got a choice of many things that you can do. We won't get into the RV Life app yet. Hopefully in the future we'll do that. But at some point, you're going to go through, you'll see filters at the top. We actually have our filters already set for our motorhome and the things that we like. But you have many choices from just simple RV Safe GPS to choosing a particular choice. Here in our case, we're going to take RV Trip Wizard, and we're going to open a trip from RV Trip Wizard, and here you see the test trip to St. Augustine. Now there, you're going to see many choices. You're going to see the start is at Stuart, Florida, and it's just as simple as picking. Well, first you're going to take a look and see if you've got the map that you need. Now, if you don't, you'll be able to download it here. Once you've downloaded the map, you'll be able to pick the spot and the place that you want to go to, which would be the first direction. And you're going to see your choices are either RV friendly or use other map provider. Now, if you chose the other map provider, it's going to warn you that it may not be RV friendly directions. So you're going to see there that you can choose and go back to RV friendly directions. And here they are, making the trip from our storage area in Stuart up to the Four Lakes Campground. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, check this area that you're going to, and start the trip. Now you've started the trip, just like pretty much any other GPS device that you have, but at the bottom you can bring up some things such as the route. Now this will give you the route, as most GPS devices will give you. You can hit details, back to details, and then these are your options. You can go back and you can change the options of the trip. All pretty simple things, but just wanted to show you some things that you could do. So that's the RV Life app. It does many other things, but we just wanted to get in and show you how you can just take the trip that you did in RV Trip Wizard, open it up in RV Life app, and make it useful to you. Well, there you have a simple use of the RV Trip Wizard for just a quick trip to a campground and back, and then how you would use it with the RV Life app, the GPS app. Don't forget, if you liked our video, please hit that like button below and subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to hit that little alarm bell. This way you'll be aware of when we post up our review of our trip to the Four Lakes Campground. We'll have links to RV Trip Wizard as well as the campground in our description below, and don't forget to leave any comments. If you've stayed there before, don't forget to tell us about it. And as we always say, enjoy the ride.